Hi, my name is Lyla Stern. I play Maya Morozov in The Waiting Room or EGGS in Purgatory film.
What was your interpretation of the script for The Waiting Room? Was there anything you found particularly relatable or interesting?
I mean, when I read it for the first time, it was interpreted as a play. Like, I remember reading it in like my dorm room and then like showing it to my friend, being like, "Do you get this? Like, what's going on in here?" And like, I understand there's references, but like, I don't personally like know a lot of the references until now. Like, I know them a lot better now, but I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" It's like, it looked very like experimental and stuff, and I really like hadn't done anything like that before because like I grew up doing like Peter Pan, and like the first thing I could tell was like, oh, this is a waiting room. This is like, I was gonna say like deathy. It's very like evil, but not really. Like it's just like, it was a very cool concept, and I did like get the like Beetlejuice vibes and stuff from there when I initially did read the script. But I would see like, oh, there's like references to stuff. Like I can tell that this means something, but maybe I don't like personally get it off like the first-hand read. And I think that's something that was like really cool about it. Was like, I'm gonna like learn as I go, like understanding the script more. Like, oh, as I'm like watching it or doing more stuff for it, I'm just gonna like it's experimental, but to a point where you can like, I don't know, it's a cool thing to like come back to, is a good way to put it. And that's, I feel like, the best type of media. The thing I connected most to was like the mental health aspects to it, because like I can relate to that in a lot of ways just in my own life and stuff like that. So like in a personal connection, it also like it drew me in that way.
When we decided to adapt The Waiting Room into a short film, what was your first reaction?
I remember being like, oh no, we're not doing it anymore. Like that kind of sucks, because I was like really excited about being in a show, because it was my first like acting performance since COVID. Like I was like, I'm in a show, I'm cast, like I was so excited. And then we used it as a film, and I'm like, oh, so this is something I've never done before. And I was like really open to it. I was like, okay, like this is cool as fuck. Like I'd been saying for forever, like, oh, it'd be so cool to be in a student film. Like that's just like a cool thing to like say you did once. And so I was like it was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like that's awesome.
How did you prepare to get into the character of Maya Morozov?
I read the script a lot. I remember that. I remember when I was doing it, or when I was reading the script for the first time, I was like, oh, I have to like keep going through this in my head, because this is very complex. This is very like something I want to do justice, like especially as someone who struggles with a lot of the same stuff. Like I was like, okay, I want to accurately portray like being in distress or being it, like the emotions that she's feeling, because they're really intense. Once again, it's like very up to interpretation. Very like, we talked a lot about it in rehearsals, like, oh, how do you interpret this relationship with like Dean and Maya? How do you interpret like this thing here? Like, do you think that this is a romantic connection? Or I remember you asking us that, and like we just like talked about stuff like that. And so it was a lot of like reading and like analyzing and just like thinking. And like I'm a student first, so like I would just kind of like let it like sit in my brain. I mean, I feel like a lot of actors do this, because I know a lot of actors just on campus, and like I'll just see them and sometimes they'll like start talking and I'm like, what's going on? What are you saying to me? And then I like realize halfway through they're like reciting a monologue. And I like definitely did that a lot, like where I would just like kind of think like the lines and stuff in the script in my head just like during my day. And when we were like actually on the shoot, like there was a lot of like, how do I get myself like safely into a place where I can like exhibit certain like distressed emotions? Like how can I do this safely and honestly in order to like accurately portray that? And so especially for the last scene, or the last like bit, I remember like I was very quiet, and the whole time like I was like, people were like having fun and stuff, and I was like, I gotta stay in, I gotta be emotional. And like the whole time, like the pictures you post sometimes, I'm like, oh, that was that day. Like where I was being really moody, but like on purpose. So I did that.
Did you make any bold choices in your performance that stuck out to you?
Not that I remember, because it was a while ago. Like I just remember really liking the stuff where I like fall on the ground, and like it was just giving very like dramatic, but like in a good way. I just thought like so many of I feel like it was nothing like I personally did. It was more like cinematic stuff that like changed. Like when we were doing it first as a play, it was like a straight run through like 2 chairs, like this is what this scene is, this is what we're doing. So when like we actually started doing filming, it was like completely different. So with like bold choices, it was more like in the spur of the moment, and like stuff that had to like also connect with like, oh, we did this shot. So I feel like a lot of it was like, oh, this would look cool, or this lighting would look cool. So it like played along with that.
Is there any scene in the waiting room that defines the film for you?
I really like the overlapping scene because it was fun to do when me and Papa would do it together, like in rehearsals, but it was even like cooler to do it by myself, like in the dark room with the cameras like flash, like because it's such a like intense scene, and it's supposed to overlap, like they're supposed to connect, of course, but they're still like internally are feeling different things, or like are separately feeling their own thing. So when I had to do it, I didn't have Pavel next to me to do it with me, like, which I was normally used to, like I would match his energy. So when I did it, I was just with myself, and it was very cool to like experience that. And I think that's a very like big turning point in the film, and I think of that first when I think of the film.
What did you enjoy about performing on camera that differs from performing on stage?
I really liked being able to redo stuff, which was like something you don't get to do a lot in like live theater. Like, oh, you messed up, get over it, keep going. Like that's something you can't really control. But with like film, it's very like, oh, if you want to change this thing, like you can try it a few different times. Like, oh, should I say it this way? Should I say it this way? Like, how does it respond better like on camera? And like there were so many times where I was like, Maddie, I don't like how my hair looked in that shot. Like you can see it in photos. I'm like I'll be like fixing my hair when we're looking at shots. I'm like, I don't like it. I liked that a lot. I liked the it was a lot less like pressure, I feel like it was in some ways like, oh god, there's a bunch of cameras on you kind of way, but it was also nice because of like the retrying aspect, and the like there was also a lot of time to like really map out what you were gonna do in a scene, or like because when we filmed we only did like a page at a time or something like that, so it was easy to just specifically focus on a certain part of the script, because we had a lot of time like within shooting days to like map out like, oh, we're saying this line right now, we're saying this, like what is this line to me in this scene, like how does that fit? And it was just a cool way to like experience acting in a different way.
What have you learned most during this whole process?
I learned a lot about just how films work, because once again, I've never done a short film before, so it was cool to experience all the elements of like lights, sound design, like takes, like take one, take two, like even like the superficial stuff that you see when people are like on a set. Like I just had never experienced it, and like one thing actors say a lot is like just like get the experience, like even just like be an intern, like be on a set, do this thing, like you want that experience. And so I think I learned a lot just from like being there and like understanding the process. I mean, it was a learning experience for everyone because it was new to pretty much everyone there other than Byron, I think. So it was just cool to like also be learning how everything worked together. But like on the other side, like this year, it's been a lot of promoting and a lot of like marketing stuff. And like that's also something like I don't know a lot about, especially considering like I'm newly in that kind of world with my major. So it's just like a cool thing to like see like firsthand on something I'm actually doing. It's cool to like know how like connections work, and it's like, oh, I know this person. I didn't think before that they could help, but like now, like it's just a cool way to like connect with people and be like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. I was in a film last year, and like people are like, that's so cool, and I'm like, I didn't realize it was that cool. Like it was just like a month of my life, but now it's like something that's been very prevalent this year.
So, in the waiting room, we say hell is other people. What is hell to you?
It's funny you say that, because yesterday I tried to get Taylor Swift tickets and I couldn't get them, and it's because everyone wanted to get Taylor Swift tickets at the same time. But I did spend 4 or 5 hours in the queue, the waiting room, if you will, trying to get them, and I did not get them, and I was like, oh haha, like these other people are my hell because they're getting the tickets before me, and I was so dramatic. But like in a lot of ways, like my personal hell is like very stressful situations, I guess, and like I feel like intensity, I guess, like with the film, I guess you could say like that scene is a good way to like kind of like externalize that, because like there's people like crowding around you, and like you can feel that like panic arising, and like that is a big feeling that like I feel in general anyway, like just with anything, or like not like claustrophobia, but like the feeling of being closed in on, like that is a big thing for me, with like big anxiety pressures, and like yeah, like it's personally like my nightmare, my hell. Thank you guys for your support on the Waiting Room film. We've been working really hard for the last year, and we appreciate any attention or support you give us. Bye!